Again, we're live from Wrestling 911 headquarters, the doctor from Detroit, the PhD, and I'm not going to tell you what the D is for. This is Snowman Jones, and I've got the Gargoyle. Gargoyle, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, my friend. How about yourself?
Fantastic. Is this the 4th episode that we've done together of 911 Audio?
I believe so.
You know, I don't think I've officially given a name to this show. I keep changing it up from 911 Wrestling, Wrestling 911, and 911 Audio. Where should I go with this thing?
Whatever you want. You're Snowman MF and Jones, baby.
I do love that. The MFing is the fun part of my job.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk about women's wrestling today. Is that a decent topic for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so kicking things off, and I'm going to hope that the audio is going to come out well. We've got Gargoyle on the phone, and I'm live and in person. So April Hunter is the first topic du jour, the wonderful redhead. I've seen some recent pictures of her from Shine, which God knows, I keep calling it Shimmer, completely different promotion. Gabe and Howard, Dante Brown, I believe would be the correct term. Dante Brown own Shine 3 coming up in September. What are your thoughts of April Hunter, the lady who recently has been compared to Jessica Rabbit with the red hair and the black leather outfits?
First of all, April Hunter is a beautiful, beautiful woman. One of those fine redheads that you don't see a whole lot of. You know, she's talented in the ring. She's got a long, respected career. You know, she's wrestled, you know, in mixed tag team action, not just women's wrestling in, you know, Jersey All Pro and God knows whatever kind of promotions. Well-traveled, you know, she can get it done in the ring.
Right.
But love me some April Hunter.
You know, she's really in great shape. She's 5'9", roughly maybe 150 pounds. She lives in the Clearwater area, and frankly, one of the things that I liked about her is the once or twice that I've had a chance to talk to her, I interviewed her on AfroSquad.com. She was a nice lady. She was welcoming with that. And then I met her at Shine 2 for the first time in person after emailing back and forth for years. And she and I had a great discussion about websites because she runs aprilhunter.com. I'm not a member, but I recommend that folks go ahead and check it out and become a member because that website has 10 years worth of stuff on that girl. And if you really want to learn a lot about the ins and outs, literally, of a hot independent wrestling diva, you got to become a member of that website.
Sounds like a plan.
Now, to give a little bit of the history of this young lady, in 1999, did you know she was in Playboy? And she was one of the original NWO kind of girls. She, Tylene Buck, Kim Canner from Shakira, I think it was Medeja, and do you remember Pamela Paulshock?
Yes. Pamela
Paulshock, from my recollection, is a horny 19-year-old kid, probably maybe 22-year-old kid back then. She was a knockoff of Pamela Anderson, but that was a pretty hot group. I don't know, the NWO had some good-looking ladies.
Yeah, I myself am not a big NWO fan, but, you know, I can't take nothing away from the taste of the women that they had rolling around with them there, you know, that's all good, but you just say NWO and I just hear the toilet go flush.
Well, as a Flair fan, I gotta imagine that they're not your favorite group.
Well, you know, it wasn't so much that, you know, I can respect the fact that it was a great idea, revolutionary when it happened, but then when you've got 85 guys in the NWO, you've got the Wolfpack, the black and red, the black and white, you know, it just got too ridiculous. It took all the effect away from the gimmick.
Fair enough.
You know, if they would have kept it at 5 or 6 guys, battle the Horsemen, battle the Dungeon of Doom, you know, the WCW guys and all that. But when you got 27 guys in the ring, you know, and 3 guys, you know, representing WCW, you know, Diamond Dallas Page and the Horsemen, and that was it. You know, it just totally killed it.
Yeah, it was too much. And Eric Bischoff justified it as, for 2 reasons. One is they could always, if you've got 15, 20 people, you can split the group and send half to a house show, send half to Japan, and they would be over just because they were the NWO. So instead of selling, oh, we've got Scott Steiner and Bubba Rogers on the card, they could say, we've got the NWO on the card, and all of a sudden the house will shell out.
Right. Depending, and they don't even know which members of the NWO are going to show up, but that's irregardless. We're wasting good time on them turnbags, and we should be talking about the ultra hot and talented April Hunter.
There you go. That's a good point. Now, April Hunter, I remember a time frame when she was dating Slick Wagner Brown. They had a rough and messy breakup. She trained under Killer Kowalski in Boston, who trained Triple H, China, so I got to think there's a little bit of a connection there.
Right. I've got several DVDs. I believe they're Jersey All Pro, where she and Slick are tagging up, and she can hold her own with anybody in the ring, you know. So I like her. I'm a fan. You know, love to see her in person and meet her. Who knows? Maybe I can make a trip down there to the next Shine show. If she's going to be on the card or whatever, and who knows?
Yeah, come on down to Shine 3. It's in September. Check Wrestling911.com for the details, folks. But absolutely, April Hunter is a fantastic performer. She's been in TNA. She was at FetishCon 2012 here in Tampa, Florida. And frankly, if you want to see her boobies, check out AprilHunter.com. And then when you're done, check out Wrestling911.com, which is also a fantastic website.
The greatest, man, the greatest.
So let's move on and talk about, who do we want to talk about next? Do we want to talk about Busti Becky Kennedy?
We can. I've known this young lady for quite a while, since before she broke into the wrestling business. Very sweet young lady, you know, hardworking. She's come a long way from where she first started out doing a little bit of the valet/manager thing. Now she's wrestling mixed tag matches, you know, in our area, and she's finally starting to travel quite a bit. She's traveled with Mr. PYB, Steve Goins, into Georgia. She's recently doing some wrestling up in Tennessee for Lethal Championship Wrestling. So she's starting to make the rounds and get out there and gain more experience.
Right.
Which is something she definitely needs, because, you know, up here in the Gulf Coast, there's a very sad lack of women wrestlers, so there's really nobody for her to work with, and you can't put her in the ring with, you know, with guys all the time. But lovely young lady, love her to death, wish her the best. I see a potentially bright future as long as she doesn't get hurt and continues to travel and, you know, gain experience. I'd really like to see her come down there and wrestle, you know, maybe Santana or Christina Von Eerie or Leva Bates, or, you know, I think that could do wonders for her career.
I kept pushing for, I believe it's Chris Palmise, and again, I run their website too, at Best of the Best, to go ahead and book her, and I've also been talking to Masked Maniac and Becky, trying to get them together. Becky, same thing here. Like, I've known her probably for 3 or 4 years, texting back and forth. I probably haven't ever met her in person, though, so getting her down to Central Florida would be fantastic. She's a heck of a talent, real pretty girl, real nice lady.
Were you not at the Best of the Best this year?
No, remember, for whatever it was, I missed that show. I forget, I flew back into town from Salt Lake City or something.
I got you, because she had rode down there with Painlord myself to check out the second Best of the Best, and scouted out Santana and Christina and Leva Bates. So, yeah, I'd like to see her down there and get some more experience working some more seasoned women's wrestlers.
Absolutely. And I missed out by missing that show. So the next lady I'm going to bring up, and see if you remember her, is former WWE diva Jazz. What do you think of Jazz?
Jazz. Tough as nails. She was back in she was beating guys' ass back in ECW before she made it to the WWE.
Yes, she was.
Athletic, talented woman who can get the job done in the ring, unlike most of the divas that are in the WWE now. I don't see why she's not on TV instead of some of these TNA girls, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the amazing thing about Jazz, because I saw her a month or so ago, and she was working the gimmick table, and I just talked with her briefly. She was standing next to April Hunter. And I saw her in a match, and she put on the most brutal women's match that I've seen in an indie show, period. And she's still just ripped as sin. And I gotta figure she was in the WWE 10 years ago, or ECW at least 10, 12 years ago, because ECW closed in what, 2000? So she can't be in her 20s, we'll put it nicely at that, but she's still in better shape than most, in terms of pure muscle, as almost any diva that I've seen.
Not to mention probably 80% of the independent male wrestlers on the circuit too, man. She is definitely a fitness fanatic and keeps herself in good ring condition at all times. Her and I believe her husband Rodney Mack, they were up in Louisiana at a promotion called NWA Wildcat quite a bit. And, you know, I'm a big fan. You know,
I forgot about Rodney Mack.
Like her when she was in ECW, she needs to be on TV and get rid of some of these Barbie doll girls they got. And, you know, if you're going to have women's wrestling, let's have women's wrestling. Completely
agree. Okay, so the last name of the night, I'm going to name drop for you, and this is a completely other end of the spectrum. We're going to go with Vickie Guerrero. What are your thoughts on the Big V?
The Big V. Well, she can definitely draw the heat from the crowd with that, excuse me, excuse me. She's revamped her look quite a bit, you know, physically, appearance-wise. I personally like her, you know, even when they were doing the whole game with her and Edge and all that other stuff.
Right.
You know, if you're getting reaction from the crowd, you're doing something right. And she definitely gets reaction from the crowd.
Right.
You know, most people, they probably don't like her. I myself find her highly entertaining, you know.
Well, kudos to Vince McMahon for hiring her and keeping her employed after Eddie passed away, because it probably means that she's getting health insurance, she's getting benefits, she's getting a steady paycheck. So kudos to her, and to Vince McMahon, and kudos to her for actually getting over. You know, she'll never be a wrestler, but you know what? She does her job. I really, and again, because I know Eric Escobar well enough that at one point she was managing Eric, and I wish that would have worked out. But kudos to her, because she's done a good job of being what a manager is, and that's someone who brings heat to the people that she works with.
Absolutely, and sadly, there's a big lack of quality managers in any of the, shall we say, major promotions, being WWE or TNA Impact or whatever they're calling themselves now. You know, a good manager is hard to find, and she fits the bill perfectly.
Perfect. All right, folks. Well, this is Snowman Jones from 911Wrestling.com. Check out our YouTube channel, Wrestling 911, to find more of these audio shows. And I'm on the horn with The Gargoyle from FrontRowFanatics.com, two of the biggest websites outside of LordsOfPain.net, run by the Pain Lord. Again, check out our radio shows, and thanks, and we'll see you at the matches. Support indie wrestling.